Let me ask a question to all of you who've stumbled upon this video in search of some goddamn quality content. What would you get if you combined the absurd space adventures of a show like Rick and Morty? Except, well, it's hooked on crack and laced with a fuck ton of acid. With a banging ass soundtrack and some of the most stunning visuals even today, 6 years after its release. No? No answer? Well, you'd get something along the lines of motherfucking Space Dandy. The show is a literal explosion of fresh air and creativity in a time where not only anime, but media in general seems to be more generic and bland than ever. So it amazes me that for some ungodly reason, it never really received the attention or widespread audience that it deserves. So that's why in this video, I'll be talking about what makes the show so goddamn good, and explaining why it's one of my favorite anime of all time, and hopefully along the way, you'll decide to pick it up for yourself. When making the show, Surichino Watanabe, who you may know as the creator of Space Dandy's much more popular older brother, Cowboy Bebop, had one main goal in mind: create a series that destroys the typical norms people are used to and be different from anything else on the market. And god damn does he manage to pull this off in every episode of the show. So, what exactly is the overarching plot of Space Dandy? Well, to be honest, there quite literally isn't one, with every episode being a completely unique story from the last that follows a very loose continuity with the others. All you really need to know going into any given episode is the incompetently stylish Dandy and his crew comprised of a useless robot and talking cat travel the galaxy in search of new alien species. Except, well, they all really fucking suck at this, and that's about all there is to it. This episodic style allows for wildly different stories to be told, where literally anything can happen, and each new director or artist brought on can have complete creative freedom over the episodes without any restraint, which in turn creates some pretty incredible stories. For example, want a parody of High School Musical where the characters break out into song and dance every 2 minutes?
You see, in this world, all is all.
I don't know why the hell you would, but hey, I'm not here to judge, and Space Dandy's got you covered. Or maybe you're looking for a more serious and darker story that discusses themes like mortality and has Dandy come to terms with his own death.
I just realized something. Honestly, it kinda doesn't matter where I go. Whether I'm alive or dead, I'm still pretty dandy.
Followed immediately after by just a fucking crazy disco battle in space. Well, whatever your sick mind is thinking of, chances are Dandy has it covered. It's this contrast between stupidly fun and creative stories and surprisingly dark, almost philosophical ones that allows the show to cover any topic imaginable. Nothing in the universe is off limits, and that's what makes Space Dandy truly one of a kind. Despite some plotlines being wildly different, even episodes like the disco battle and the death episode are some of the best in the series, both covering totally unrelated themes not many shows have the creative freedom to explore, which is why Space Dandy's active rejection of a conventional plot structure is so unique and impressive for a show like this to have. This is not your typical space adventure where the protagonist must fight evil to save the universe. It's a collection of 26 entirely original pieces of art and must-see stories, only connected by a lovable crew and badass pompadour. Now, I'll be the first to tell you, I am no artist. In fact, I could barely draw 2 stick figures even if my life were dependent on it. But even as someone like myself, the different animation styles and art direction unique to each episode truly make for some of the most breathtaking scenes I've ever seen in any anime. If the plot and storylines of each episode are the foundation for the show, it's the amazing animation that really gives it its one-of-a-kind identity. Space Dandy is able to produce breathtaking scenes like this on a consistent basis by bringing on some of the biggest talent in anime to make each episode. I won't attempt to say their names, but these incredible animators are responsible for some massively popular creations like Mob Psycho and One Punch Man, with each one bringing their own unique and creative style to the show. This style of production allows for each and every episode to be its standalone work of art, with an entirely unique method of storytelling and animation that transforms Space Dandy into something special. Other than that, there's not much else to say about the visuals. They're good. Real good. Like, really fucking good. But you have to experience them for yourself to know how impactful they are to you. With a show like this, music typically isn't really the first thing that comes to mind, but much like Watanabe's previous works, the soundtrack fucking slaps. He has this way of giving each of his shows its own style and vibe through the use of music, which is partly what makes him such a great storyteller. The slower and heavy-hitting story of Bebop was told through usage of jazz, Samurai Champloo was hip-hop, and as you may have guessed, Space Dandy used a lot of futuristic, disco-esque songs to tell its stories. Actually, the whole series is surprisingly musical, with most episodes having unique one-off tracks that fit the theme of what's happening, and some are even completely centered around the aspect of music, with the soundtrack being what's used to tell a story. There are more obvious examples of this, like the episode where Dandy creates his own rock band. But there are also more subtle and meaningful usages of music throughout every storyline. These soundtracks really complement each episode, and much like the rest of the show, they know when to be serious and when to be over-the-top goofy, which really contributes to the overall identity and enjoyment of each episode. Not to mention, some of them are catchy as hell. Seriously, some of the most memorable and unique episodes are the ones with banging soundtracks that perfectly complements just how absurd and emotional the show can get at times. This usage of music to further the story and adventures in a show like Space Dandy isn't something a lot of Western shows have caught on to yet, which makes it much more enjoyable to watch than any other generic show or anime out there. So yeah, that's about all I have to say about Space Dandy. All of the elements I just talked about come together to create one of the most unique and creative shows I've ever seen. And I didn't even talk about some of the things that made the show so good, like the comedy that genuinely hits and it's fucking hilarious. So in conclusion, please watch the damn show, cause I know I didn't just spend 2 weeks of my life making this video for nothing. And if you enjoyed the video, feel free to give it a like or subscribe. I'll be making more of this type of content, and if you enjoy my style, hopefully I'll get better at this shit and make some bangin' ass videos. But in the meantime, Later.
What's going on? あなた眠らせない恋の魔力愛を唇から吹き込むのよ胸を回せるたびメロディーと聞こえるまるで無尺のよう離れてても引き合うベイベ唇が動いてるあなたを呼んで動いてる Won't you kiss したいキスしたい強く抱いて溶かして休まないで I got you baby もう一度 I got you baby
I've got it. What I need to do is join a cooking class.
Yeah? You gonna bake yourself a booby cake?
Why would I do that? Who wants a cake instead of the real